documents being requested involving President Trump's dealings with Ukraine.
We've been treated very unfairly.
As a key witness testifies behind closed doors on Capitol Hill. And the new focus on Vice President Pence, what committees leading the impeachment probe want to know, plus the report of a second potential whistleblower.
Arsenal arrest. The Florida woman accused of stockpiling weapons, including dozens of homemade pipe bombs.
These bombs could have caused catastrophic damage.
What police say she told them, and the surprising twist, who turned her in.
Breaking overnight, splash landing.
We're not going to make it.
A single-engine plane goes down in the river, right near 3 Mile Island. How those on board managed to survive.
Struck by lightning. The man zapped while walking his dog's socks and shoes blown off. The rush to help, amazingly surviving that massive jolt. How he's doing this morning.
And celebrity assistants. Kim Kardashian taking up the case made famous by the show Making a Murderer. How she's supporting Brendan Dassey's bid for freedom. Will the governor of Wisconsin listen?
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Hey, good morning. All right, before we dive into the news, and there's a lot of news this morning, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this is a big, strike that, huge day for us. This is the first day of a major doubling down for GMA Saturday. We are now going to 2 hours.
Yeah, you're stuck with us. We're super excited about this. 2 hours every Saturday morning. We have a ton of great stories, some hilarious surprises, all in store for you. It's coming up soon. But we want to start here with the fast-moving developments in the impeachment inquiry.
Yeah, as we come on the air, here's what we know right now. A major escalation from House Democrats issuing a subpoena to the White House for documents related to Donald Trump's July phone call with the leader of Ukraine after the administration missed a previous deadline to hand over materials. Joe Biden taking questions from reporters for the first time since this story began. And overnight, the New York Times reporting that there may be a second whistleblower preparing to come forward. We have team coverage, and we begin with ABC's David Wright at the White House. David, good morning.
Good morning, guys. This is a fast-moving story. The Democrats on Capitol Hill turning up the heat. After the White House ignored a deadline to hand over documents voluntarily, House investigators issued subpoenas compelling them to do so. It's a significant escalation, but the committee chairs say that the president left them with no choice. Citing what Democrats describe as the president's flagrant disregard for their repeated requests for documents, the House Oversight Committee sent the White House a strongly worded letter noting that any further delay shall constitute evidence of obstruction.
We've been treated very unfairly.
The White House issued a statement saying the subpoena changes nothing and is a waste of time and taxpayer dollars. President Trump Friday continued to slam former Vice President Biden.
What I want to do, and I think I have an obligation to do it, probably a duty to do it, corruption. We are looking for corruption. When you look at what Biden and his son did, and when you look at other people.
Biden hit back.
We got to get something straight. All this talk of the president about corruption comes from the most corrupt president we've had in modern history.
The congressional investigation into whether Trump sought to strong-arm a foreign leader into digging up dirt on a political rival is expanding rapidly. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told Democrats,
"This is something that treat it with great care. There may be some in this room who thought we should have been sooner. I just said when we have more facts, we will be ready."
Among Republicans, Senators Ben Sasse and Mitt Romney remain the only Republicans in the Senate to break ranks with the president, Romney calling the president's behavior wrong and appalling. Compare that to Senator Marco Rubio.
Do you think it's okay for President Trump to ask China to launch an investigation of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
I don't know if that's a real request or him just needling the press, knowing that you guys were going to get outraged by it.
Back in their districts.
Where is the line? When are you guys going to say enough?
Others find themselves on the defensive. The Washington Post filmed this constituent confronting Iowa's Senator Joni Ernst over her refusal to criticize President Trump.
I can't speak for him. I'll just say that. I can't speak for him.
I know you can't speak for him, but you can speak for yourself.
This morning, the New York Times reports that there may be a second possible whistleblower, an intelligence official who's already been interviewed by the Inspector General. According to the Times, this person has more direct knowledge of President Trump's dealings with Ukraine and is now weighing whether to file a complaint of their own. Eva?
All right, David, thank you. On Capitol Hill, the Inspector General for the intelligence community gave a deposition behind closed doors as House Democrats look together. ABC's Kira Phillips has more for us. Good morning to you, Kira.
Good morning, Eva. Well, as the president resists Democratic attempts to produce documents and administration witnesses for this impeachment inquiry, the clash between the two branches of government intensifies.
For 7 long hours, the Inspector General of the Intel community, Michael Atkinson, testified behind closed doors on Capitol Hill. It was Atkinson that deemed the whistleblower complaint at the center of the impeachment inquiry an urgent concern. Democratic lawmakers seem pleased with the Inspector General's testimony.
But for his reporting this to Congress, the efforts of the White House and the Justice Department to cover it up might have been successful.
Meanwhile, Republicans took aim at the chairman of the committee, Representative Adam Schiff.
Chairman Schiff should be disqualified from running an investigation where his committee members or staff are fact witnesses about contact with the whistleblower and the whistleblower process.
Democrats, though, are undeterred, now pursuing a new target in the Trump-Ukraine drama, Vice President Mike Pence. The committees leading the impeachment probe sent a letter Friday requesting a laundry list of documents and communications to determine Pence's knowledge of Trump asking Ukraine to investigate 2020 rival Joe Biden. The committee's also asking for requests, suggestions, proposals, or other communications surrounding the president's decision to not send his vice president to Zelensky's inauguration in May.
Now, Pence's office is rejecting this demand, dismissing it as, quote, a do-nothing Democrats move, slamming the party for trying to call attention to what Pence's office termed a partisan impeachment. Dan?
Kira, thank you so much. Kira Phillips on Capitol Hill for this morning. So much to talk about here. So let's bring in our ringer, ABC News chief political analyst Matthew Dowd. Matt, great to have you on set on a Saturday morning.
Did you add this extra hour just because of what's going on?
Yes, exactly. We want to give you room to breathe. So let's go back to this New York Times report that there may be a second whistleblower about to come forward. To you, what's the significance of this?
I think every time there's a new witness to what happened, a new witness to said what the president said he did, that they say he also did in this, raises the odds that the president is going to get impeached. I don't think right now it raises the odds would get convicted in the Senate. But I think if you looked at the House of Representatives today, and if a new whistleblower appears and does confirm what happened, the president will get impeached in the House if that happens.
It's also the Republicans have been trying to discredit the original whistleblower. If there are then two, it's harder to maybe discredit both of them at the same time. Let me talk about Joe Biden. We saw in David Wright's piece that he's making his most extensive comments since this story broke. How's he doing in the light of this story, and is this likely to help or hinder him?
I think he was having difficulty in this campaign process because of the energy that Elizabeth Warren had created. I think this gives him a moment that can only help him. He basically becomes the opponent to Donald Trump in the midst of this conversation, and all the Democrats seem now to defending him in this process. It has to help him in this. I don't think it'll fundamentally change the nature of the race, which puts him in a position of running against Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and others, but it's got to help when he pivots one-on-one against Donald Trump.
And let's finally talk about the Republicans. We've seen a few come out to criticize the president, Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse. Do you expect others will break, or is there going to be a red wall here?
Well, until there's more U.S. Republican senators than whistleblowers coming out, it's going to be difficult for the Democrats to get this done. I think it all depends on the facts that emerge. And does it confirm in a distinct way that there was a quid pro quo of this new whistleblower? I think you could see a number of senators. I have a serious doubts if it will ever get up to 20 Republican senators going against the president.
And that's what's needed to convict him in the Senate and remove him from office.
That's what's needed to convict him. But there is, if you get 3 or 4 Republicans, they can change the rules and how the process happens in the United States Senate.
Matthew Dowd, always a pleasure to have you on a Saturday morning. Really appreciate it.
Congrats to you all on the extra hour.
Thank you. Great to see you in person. Appreciate it. Eva, over to you.
Well, moving now to breaking overnight. 4 people are dead and another is in critical condition after a brutal attack on homeless men on the streets of New York City's Chinatown. Police say a 24-year-old man carrying a metal post or pipe assaulted 2 homeless men just after 2 o'clock this morning, killing one and injuring the other. About 2 hours later, police found another crime scene where 3 more men were found dead. The suspect, who is believed to be homeless, is in police custody.
Now to an arrest in Florida where a woman is accused of stockpiling homemade pipe bombs and an arsenal of weapons. She's appearing in court this morning. The twist in this story, who turned her in to police? ABC's Stephanie Ramos joins us with details. Stephanie, good morning.
Wait, good morning. Police were called to this Tampa area home where this young woman lived with her parents. Police were stunned to find out what was inside.
Authorities in Florida have arrested this woman, 27-year-old Michelle Colts. She's accused of making dozens of pipe bombs with the intent to hurt people.
The amount of highly destructive materials we found in this home were astonishing.
Police commending her parents for turning in their daughter after they say they found bomb-making materials in her bedroom.
Who knows the amount of harm that could have been done or how many lives could have been lost had these parents not found the courage to call the sheriff's office and seek help.
Sheriff's deputies allegedly uncovering a massive arsenal inside the Colts Tampa area home. A total of 24 pipe bombs loaded with nails and screws for shrapnel, 23 different knives, 2 hatchets, nunchucks, and dozens of books and DVDs about murder, mass killing, domestic terrorism, and bomb making. Authorities say Colts admitted to police that she did make the devices and was going to use them.
If used, these bombs could have caused catastrophic damage and harm to hundreds, even thousands of people.
This isn't the first time authorities have been alerted about Colts. Last year, an online printing company called, concerned about the books Colts had been buying, including guides on how to make explosives. The sheriff's office says at that time, they didn't think she was a threat.
They could be doing it for research. They could be doing it for thesis. At that time, there was nothing about her that was alarming that would have put her higher on our radar at the time.
Colts is facing 24 counts of making a destructive device with intent to harm. Authorities say, yes, this was alarming, but they also don't want to demonize this woman who's struggling with mental health issues, they say. They say they want to highlight the importance of speaking up if something's not right, like these parents did.
You don't want to demonize people with mental illness, but you also need to protect the community, and that appears to be what happened here.
And as the police said, courageous parents.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Well, Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders says he is feeling much better after being released from a Las Vegas hospital. Doctors revealing that Sanders suffered a heart attack. The 78-year-old's taken to Desert Springs Hospital after experiencing chest pains during a campaign event last Tuesday. Doctors say they inserted 2 stents to open a blocked artery.
Now to the breaking news overnight. We're following a plane making a splash landing in a Pennsylvania river right near 3 Mile Island. The FAA investigating what went wrong in this case. ABC's Rachel Scott joins us from our Washington, D.C. bureau with more. Rachel, good morning.
Wait, good morning to you. It was a frightening crash landing. That plane missed the runway and ended up in the water. The 2 on board stranded on the wings as a nearby boater jumped into action to help.
Harrisburg Tower, site Taylor, lost the engine. We're not going to make it.
A terrifying flight on board this single-engine Piper plane, crashing in central Pennsylvania Susquehanna River, not far from the notorious 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. You can see the nose of the aircraft submerged in the river, water covering the plane's wings.
I'll let them know that you're getting out of the water. If you can make it to shore, to try to as best you can.
It's rather shallow. I believe it's hung up on the rocks.
I'll get you a bunch of boats dispatched.
The 2 miraculously escaping without serious injuries, with help from a nearby boater.
I beat River Rescue out there, and I made sure they were fine. And then I got the lady on the boat because she was pretty shooken up and sobbing. And
the crash, reminiscent of the miracle on the Hudson 10 years ago, when Sully Sullenberger was able to land his Airbus A320 after hitting a flock of geese, which caused the U.S. Airways jet to go down, saving the lives of all 155 people on board.
And authorities are still trying to figure out how to recover that aircraft. As for the 2 on board, they walked away with only minor injuries. Dan?
Only minor injuries. Incredible. Rachel, thank you so much. We're going to move on now To the latest parent sentenced in the so-called Varsity Blues college admissions scandal, a California winemaker getting the harshest sentence yet for the lengths he went to try to get his daughter into a top school. ABC's Kaylee Hartung is here with what this father told the judge. Kaylee, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Wiretaps and emails, they shed new light on the links of bribery and deception that this father resorted to, even how he involved his daughter in the plot. In federal court, the fifth parent sentenced in this scam admitted that his own ego brought him down.
It's the harshest punishment yet for a parent embroiled in the college admissions scandal. Napa winemaker Augustine Huneeus sentenced to 5 months in prison and 500 hours community service by a federal judge. In court, the father of four saying, "I want to pay for my crime and atone for the harm I have caused." 35 parents have been linked to the Varsity Blues scam, but Huneeus, the only one to both rig his child's standardized test scores and fake her athletic credentials. This photo sent as part of a fabricated application to USC. That's not even his daughter playing water polo. $300,000, the total price of the deal Huneeus agreed to, but he was arrested before he paid it off, and his daughter was never accepted into the school.
He definitely has a greater degree of culpability if you measure, what each individual did as a participant in the scheme.
This is actress Felicity Huffman prepares to serve 14 days in prison at the end of the month. The Desperate Housewives star admitted to paying $15,000 to inflate her daughter's SAT score. Meanwhile, actress Lori Loughlin and her husband, fashion designer Massimo Giannulli, preparing for trial. 15 parents, including Huneeus and Huffman, have pleaded guilty, but this couple is fighting the charges.
Do you guys have any comment?
Accused of paying $500,000 to get their two daughters into USC, if convicted, they could face up to 40 years in jail.
Lori and her husband have not entered any kind of plea. They are signaling and have stated very publicly that they intend to fight these charges.
Huneeus could have faced up to 20 years in jail, but we're seeing prosecutors go with the lower end of federal sentencing guidelines in these cases where the parents plead guilty and show remorse. Eva, Whit, you guys have both covered this extensively. We all know all eyes are going to be on Lori Loughlin and her husband next.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they set up their defense for this case.
Especially since everybody who's pleaded guilty is going to jail so far.
Taking a risk.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kaylee. We appreciate it. We want to move on to Texas now. A man is recovering this morning after he was suddenly struck by lightning. It was all caught on camera. Take a look at this surveillance video here. It shows Alex Correas walking his dogs. Then all of a sudden, that spark right there, and he goes down. Workers at a nearby veterinary clinic run out to help him performing CPR. They say his shoes and socks were completely blown off his feet. Correas was taken to a Houston hospital, but is expected to be okay. It's incredible. And you see the dogs just taking off right after that, too.
Crazy that he was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to know that information, though. Speaking of weather-related events, let's get to our friend Rob Marciano, our own little lightning rod, who's out there in Lightning Rob in Gainesville, Florida this morning.
Oh, my gosh, look at the crowd.
Exactly, the side of ESPN's College Game Day. Rob, good morning to you. Well said, Rob.
Yeah.
It looks like
that was tough. We'll get back to Rob.
I'm sure they were screaming, "It's great to be a Florida Gator."
And they're doing the chopping. Let's see if we can go back to Rob to start that again. There we hear you.
There it is.
Here we go. What's going on, Rob?
College Game Day here in just a few minutes, guys, because Auburn undefeated, taking on the Tigers today, or taking on, the Gators today. Two undefeated SEC teams. We've got the Dazzlers here. We got Alberta hanging out as well. It's a huge day for GMA and for ESPN College Game Day. The biggest game so far this season, no doubt about that. It is steamy down here. It feels a little bit more like football up north, where we've had a cool snap, thankfully, after the heat that we've seen in the past couple of days. So check it out. Frosty morning in some spots, a hard freeze in others, temperatures 30s and 40s, and that trend will continue across the Northeast. We do have a little weak system that's going to be impacting some college football games in the Midwest, Big 12, Big 10 games maybe, and then some rain heading across some areas that could use it, but there may be enough, especially in the west, to where we'll see a little bit of flooding, 4 to 6 inches of rainfall there. No rain expected here in Gainesville, Florida from the big game. Let's have a look at your local forecast.
Well, hello and good morning, Washington. Meteorologist Alex, look at here. A great start to the weekend. Finally, fall here, 68 degrees. Remember Fall for Fairfax Kids Fest? That's out at the Fairfax County Government Center. A lot of us will be out there this weekend. 77 degrees on your Sunday. A few showers mainly to the west over the mountains, kind of warming up. Early next week, finally another chance for some rain. Monday.